This is the Arturia Keylab Mk3. It's the latest iteration of Arturia's beloved MIDI controller series, and in this video I want to tell you about 5 features that have stood out to me in the past few weeks that I've been using it. Now, before we start off though, I want to make a few disclaimers in transparency's sake. First of all, Arturia sent me Keylab Mk3 at no charge, but they're not paying me, nor do they have any say whatsoever in the contents of this video. Also, please note that this is not my official or final review, mainly because I'm using it on pre-release firmware. Having been mostly DAWless until about a year or so ago, I was much more familiar with Arturia's Keylab series than I was with the Keylabs. I've been a huge fan of those controllers for a long time and have posted quite a few videos about them, so I was curious to see what the Keylab did differently. While researching for this video, it was a great surprise to find out that the previous Arturia Keylab, the Mk2, had been so well received, with some reviewers even going so far as to calling them best in class. Now, compared to the Mk2, this version, as you would expect, has been upgraded in a few areas, but quite surprisingly, it's also been slimmed down in quite a few others as well. The newest addition, and first on my list of standout features, is the new fully colored 3.5 480 by 320 screen with 8 contextual buttons. It replaces the older Roland style screen and it adds a ton of visual feedback to the experience. Very reminiscent of Native Instruments' high-end MIDI controllers. Coupled with the new touch-sensitive faders and encoders, you always know what you're doing and what parameter is assigned to what control at all times without the need to look it up on your computer or having to actually change a parameter to find out. Just touch lets you know what's going on. This new addition also makes navigating presets in Arturia's plugins much easier than before, being able to filter through by different categories such as instruments, genres, or types. This also allowed Arturia to eliminate the category buttons below the faders in the previous model, which I guess they did to achieve a cleaner look, but that also means that you don't get the 8 selectable banks of encoders and faders either. The more informative screen also allows for standout feature number 2, which is tight integration between hardware and software. You could very well shut off your computer screen entirely while you're plugged into either Analog Lab V, Piano V, or Mini V, and easily tweak your presets with amazing parameter detail, as well as create multi-instruments with 2 presets in either split or layered modes. It's all very well laid out, and it really makes using the software a more fluid and fun experience, especially for sound design. This integration isn't limited to just Arturia's plugins though. The Keylab comes with various scripts for controlling different DAWs, and navigating through Ableton, which is my DAW preference, was a quick and easy affair thanks to the Keylab's controls. A function that I really appreciate is that if you're on a track with an Arturia plugin in it, you can click on the jog wheel and it'll take you into plugin mode for that track, so you can access all the parameters just like you would if you were on Analog Lab, for example. Then when you're done, you just simply click the back button and you're back in DAW mode again. As I said before, this newer model eliminates lots of the control buttons on the faceplate that the Mk2 had, but I think that's mainly because most of the same functions will usually show up either on the screen or in the contextual buttons, such as arm, solo, and play a scene buttons as shown here. The Mk3, just as the Mk2 before it, allows for DAW, plugin, and user modes, with the latter being absolutely customizable with either using MIDI Control Center or on the hardware itself. Although the MIDI Control Center is much faster, I really appreciate that you can do it all on the device directly, including assigning and naming the faders and encoders, for example. You can also quick edit controllers by clicking on the settings button and then turning a knob or pushing an encoder, which reminded me of the workflow that I have on my Polybrute. And a small detail that I really like is that you have the option of assigning a different fixed MIDI channel to each individual fader and encoder, independent from what the MIDI channel that the keyboard itself is controlling, which means that you could tweak multiple parameters on different synths at the same time. This also applies to the pads, by the way. All of these customizations can then be saved in different user templates, which further give versatility to this controller. As I said, Mk3 slims down a few features from its predecessor, and one of those features is regarding the chord function. On the Mk3, you no longer have the option to assign chords to the pads as you did on the previous model. You now have a smart chord mode with a few preset chords, as well as the ability to make your own. What I really like about the Chord Mode, however, is the ability to strum and spread the notes, much like on my beloved Keystep 37. As one would expect, you also get a scale mode, which comes with preset scales and the option to make your own. But the standout feature for me here is the arpeggiator mode. Now, if I'm being honest, after a certain point in your synth and sequencer journey, you're bound to get pretty tired of arpeggiators. I usually tend to just ignore them because they tend to be pretty standard and for the most part, a little bit boring. Arturia's arpeggiators, like in the MiniFreak, usually have a way to spice things up a bit, and the Keylab Mk3 is no exception. You get the usual suspects such as swing, BPM, gate, octave, and note division, and so on. But what I found to be a creative goldmine is the random feature. In random mode, you get a tiny dice that plays with the values of things like trigger, skip, octave, gate, ratchet, and velocity probability values. After the dice is thrown, you can then adjust parameters to your liking and needs, which when combined with chord and scale mode has led me to some very happy accidents and idea starters. The final standout feature is the hardware itself. The keybed feels great, especially for a MIDI controller. It has a nice sensitivity to velocity and also a deeper treble than I would have expected, being even deeper than my Polybrute. Things like the velocity and aftertouch sensitivity, of course, are customizable, but feel pretty good by default. And the keys themselves have a nice physical resistance to them, though they do feel more natural playing synths than pianos. The backlit buttons are clicky and feel pretty premium. The velocity and pressure sensitive pads feel responsive and are pretty nice to finger drum on, even though there are 4 less than there were on the Mk2. The unit itself feels sturdy and well made, and I gotta admit, I'm pretty much a sucker for wooden sides, so I'd say that the aesthetic department nailed the look. Finally, if we take a look at the back panel, we once again see that reductions have been made. Gone are the CV ins and outs, as well as the aux 2 and 3 inputs. If I had to guess why, I'd say that maybe it's because Arturia figured out that the modular crowd would naturally be more attracted to the very popular Keystep Pro for all their CV needs, but can't say for sure. The Keylab Mk3 comes bundled with Analog Lab Pro, Mini V, Piano V, Rev Plate 140, and Augmented Strings, which is one of my favorite plugins. So I'd say it's a pretty good alternative for people who are thinking of jumping into the Arturia ecosystem, as well as those who are already pretty well invested. Aside from the Arturia plugins, it comes with a license for Ableton Live Lite, Native Instruments The Gentleman, and a Melodics and Loop Cloud subscription. So quite a lot to keep you making music for quite a while, I'm sure. If you're thinking about buying the Keylab Mk3, please remember that doing so by using my affiliate links in the description below, you can also help support my channel so I can keep making videos just like this one. Thanks to Arturia for sending me the Keylab, but most importantly, thank you for watching. I hope you found this video useful, or at least entertaining. Have a great week. See you next time.